Rod didn't have his hat on. That just didn't seem right. Just didn't seem right. Sorry about that. A little attention deficit disorder. Squirrel. Shiny object.
Thanks for the reminder, though. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Sue Witter, and I'm one of the practitioners and a ministerial intern, which is fun to say, after all these years. So I'd like to welcome you and thank you for coming today. You know, we all have a lot of things we can do on Sunday morning, and so I'm so grateful that you took the time to honor the truth of who you are today and to be here and join us. And welcome to everyone online as well. Today, the practitioner, or Reverend today. Reverend, newly minted Reverend Tracy is here to do the prayer and the reading. And yes, you couldn't hear her. She said, I've waited 5 years to hear that. Yeah, I have a few more, but I've waited 30. So, because I just haven't had the good sense to go. But anyway, I digress. Let me see. So we're at the vision statement. Let's do that first. So it'll show up here in a second. So there we go. So if you say the vision statement with me, we are a loving, joy-filled community honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the science of mind principles. So it is. So just a couple of quick announcements. As always, we have a prayer box that is back in the corner there. You can have a public prayer on the wall, a prayer box out at home space. Please give us all the opportunity to pray. It is something that the practitioners and the ecclesiastical team love to be able to do to support you, and it lifts us as well. So, first of all, next Sunday, Reverend Karen will be doing a free intro to Science of Mind immediately after you've had a chance to enjoy some refreshments in your office, yes? Papke Hall. Okay, so you're going to do that in Papke Hall. And it's just if you want to have an understanding of what the basics are that we talk about, it is a good way to start, and it's also a good way to see what will happen in the foundations class, which I can't recommend enough. We are still accepting donations for the carpeting. We are so excited to be halfway there, a little more than halfway there.
We're getting very close. And we have special envelopes if you'd like to make a donation for that.
You're not on.
No,
Okay,
I don't.
never mind.
I want you to.
So, you want me to? So, these are beautifully designed, individually designed envelopes by Karen Izzy. If you want to put a contribution in specifically for the carpets, but we're just so excited. That will be probably one of the last things we really need to do to have this place be totally transformed. So, let's see what else. Oh, the Boo Bash. So, the 29th, we are having the most fun party. We haven't had this kind of fun since well before the start of COVID. So the Bradfords and the whole Bradford crew that will be there to play music, costumes, if you are so moved. Good food, good fun, dancing, laughing, and general carrying on. So please, there are tickets available in the bookstore. Anything else that I'm missing about that? No, okay. And then we have a commercial break that is very, very important. So just hold on.
I know where this one's going. Holy cow, hold on. Ready? Let's go gourmets. Let's go gourmets. Let's go gourmets. Hi everyone, it's Julie.
And Kendra.
Your Gourmets for God goddesses taking the court for another week of the only fundraiser you can eat. It's time to jump ball and place your bids today.
Don't take a time out because bidding is actually happening today after service in Papke Hall. And it's the last day to bid. See the newsletter or the Gourmets for God section on the website at www.wvcsl.com under About Us. Click on Announcements and find the Gourmets for God page for the event listing. No assist because this year's bids can only be placed in person.
You will need to register in person and receive your bidder number and a catalog. Once you have those, you can box out your opponents and place your bids on your favorite events.
Not showing up for an event or changing dates is a double foul. Keep yourself off the bench by checking your calendars before placing your bids, and be sure to commit to the date when you bid.
Double dribbles are allowed in this game. Remember to bid on separate lines for your spouse or friend to join you. Each event has a specific number of spots, and if you're one of the highest individual bids, you score yourself 1 spot at the event.
Take your free throw, because there are events for every budget. No rebounds, because all winning bids are financially binding.
Check your defense and bid high to jump shot your way into the events you want. Bidding ends today, so make a fast break to the bidding tables after service and get registered. Place your bids on one of our amazing events. Otherwise, it's an air ball.
If you're hoping to have a date with a chicken, an awesome full moon ceremony, or travel to explore the flavors of India, or just a wonderful home-cooked lasagna night, and so much more, you will want to increase your bid for a slam dunk.
Bidders will be notified by email by October 22nd. Payments will be due by Sunday, October 30th. Any payments not made will result in a turnover of your spot to the next highest bidder.
You can pay by cash, card, or check. Alley-oop! Get in there today and get that ball on the court. Baller.
Dribble it, pass it. We know you want a basket. Together, we are big for fun.
It's more fun than anything. Thank you, ladies. You just bring joy to my soul. Truly, truly. So all the rest of the announcements you can find online. If you aren't signed up for the newsletter, please do so that you can get everything electronically. And we have so much fun, it's really worth taking a time to look at all that's going on. So with that, I will say it is now time for us to take a breath and slow down and allow the Bradfords music to lift us as we prepare for the meditation and Reverend Karen's talk.
I will make a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind. I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know. I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
Just taking that beautiful, deep, life-filling breath in, calming the mind and turning within and leaving the ego chatter to its banter, knowing that the presence of God is in this place. And because it's in this place, it's in each one of us. That we open ourselves to the endearing words of Spirit through Reverend Karen, the music of the Bradfords. That life calls. It brought you here today. It brought you as a viewer online because you know there is a truth. And that truth is revealed in this sanctuary today and every day. And as Spirit blesses us with these words, we know that what gets the work done does the work. And we release these things to that does it. The magnificent beauty of Spirit. And so it is. Today the reading is from this thing called life. Don't be afraid of being spiritual. Since early history, men have felt the presence of life and believed in it and communicated with it, and they have received direct answers from it. Our difficulty lies not so much in contradicting this truth as in cultivating an inner awareness, a deep spiritual realization that we are one with all the presence and all the power that there is. Learn to clear your thought of everything that obstructs your beliefs in the goodness and the givingness of life, and realize the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It dwells within. And so it is.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am. Letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. When I lose myself, when it seems I've lost my way, when I go inside and quiet my mind, I can hear Spirit gently say, there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
So in this moment, I am knowing that I am an open vessel to love, joy, and peace flowing into my life. And in receiving all these gifts, I'm creating creating a beautiful life to share with others.
There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only, there is only, there is only love.
That was exquisite. It's an old favorite, and yet we have never heard it done like that. So thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning. Well, this is one of those days where it feels like you multiplied in the dark when we closed our eyes. I love that about church. I love that we always know our own perfect timing, and then we just show up right when it matters. So thank you for being here today. I'm happy to be back. I took a day off because I had a family experience. My sister flew in from Michigan, my nieces flew in from Chicago, and my granddaughter flew in with her baby, flew in from Austin, Texas, and so I've had nothing but family. And we call ourselves the Sister Squad. We've been playing on video together since last May when I went to visit my sister in Michigan. We got this family chat thing going on an app on our phones that's so amazing, and it's just brought such delight to my soul to feel so reconnected to these beautiful, beautiful women who are all a part of my lineage. You know, they're all me and my sister Deb. We're the matriarchs of this big old group. And to have one of the great grandbabies there with us celebrating was really fun. So I am back, and I am, we had such a good time and did so many fun things in just a few days. But I am revving to go, and a lot of stuff is going on in terms of, as you know, am I the only one that's going to really miss when Kendra and Juliana are not up here doing that anymore? I just think we need another reason to get the two of you up here so we can be entertained. I was laughing so hard today, I could hardly behave myself. It's like, I don't even know how you transition to such a serious song after all that. It was great, great fun. It was rough, he says. So I have a message for you that has been really kind of fun for me to get inspired about. It comes from my favorite chapter in the Science of the Mind textbook is that chapter on mental equivalence. And the quote I took comes on, if you want to look at it later in the context, this is a great quote on page 282. You're going to know why I love it in a minute. This is one of those quotations where Holmes has a bit of the poet in him, in the beautiful way he uses words. The title of my message is The Sea of Receptivity. And here's the quote from which I took the title. The one person who can throw him or herself with complete abandon into that limitless sea of receptivity is the one who will always receive the greatest reward. Isn't that important? I mean, throw yourself with complete abandon into that place where you're just receptive to receiving the good that's out there, the good that we desire to experience in our lives. None of us are different from each other. You know, we have some very basic needs and desires and longings of our heart and sort of urgings of our soul. So, we say sometimes when we're teaching prayer, there are 5 steps to treatment. Recognition, unification, realization, thanksgiving, and release are the 5 steps. But if you look at the first letter of each of those words, it comes out to RURTR, which then we tell you can remember it by are you ready to receive? Are you ready to receive? So when we're talking about this great boundless sea of receptivity, are we open to receive the good that is there for us. And in fact, I like what every time I think of that statement, are you ready to receive? I think of the master teacher, Jesus, who had this ministry where he starts traveling about the country or countries, the territory in that day, and he begins to create these healings, these experiences of what people would call miracles. And then the word gets out, and now people are flocking to him, and they all want to be healed, and they approach him. When they can get close to him, those few that could really get hands-on and talk to him and ask him questions, and they say, teacher, rabbi, can you heal me, please? I've been blind. I want to see again. Cast out the demons in me. I can't even think straight. And what would Jesus say to them when they would approach him? How is it recorded in the Bible? You know what it says? Then Jesus would say to them, do you believe? Do you believe that you could be healed? Do you believe? Are you giving me some kind of power? Is this? Because for him it wasn't miraculous. It was a way that he understood oneness with the Father, with God, and that we could tap into this way, that the place that we call that part of us that is untouched by any of the scuttlebutt in the world. There's something in us that's always whole, perfect, and complete. It's that intelligence that knows how to take care of business when we don't feel good. Right? It's that weird thing that happens in time when you've been through a financial hardship, and then a little while later down the road, you're not having a financial hardship anymore. How does that happen? It's the nature of life to heal itself. And so they would say to Jesus, Lord, heal me. And he would say, are you ready to receive? And that's what we're talking about today. It's this limitless sea of receptivity. So as I played with the title, we talk about this stuff a lot. This is at the very core of our teaching. And it's helpful to remember that the universe is an orderly, safe place in which to live. In fact, if you don't believe that, then your life, as Einstein said, your life is a lot harder than it needs to be. So decide again what you believe about this universe we live in. So we begin to learn that, yes, there's something unlimited, something infinite about the universe and its ability to provide for us. There's something inexhaustible about spirit, about God, that shows us there's this ability on the part of God to sustain its creation. Everything that God's created, God can sustain. So there is always, we say a spiritual solution to every problem. Wayne Dyer liked it so much he named a book after those words. And what we see is that there's this connection between our willingness to understand the infinite nature of life, the limitless nature of the universe, and that everything needed for the human condition, no matter what it looks like we're going through, everything we need is given. And more than that, as if that's not good enough, more than that, we as humanity have changed through the thousands of years of our existence. We have expanded our consciousness so that we can do things now that we didn't know how to do when Moses walked on the earth. And it's because we've been willing to see the limitless nature of what's possible in life. Right? So the law of gravity hasn't changed, but our understanding of how the law of gravity works. And so one day, humankind, people, use their resourcefulness, the creative nature of our ability to think, and we figure out how to get airplanes up in the sky. And that's a pretty incredible thing. And that's a really good example of the way that we continue to evolve in consciousness. And all of the discomfort we might be noticing on the planet right now in 1,000 different ways, it's just an invitation for us to step up into that unlimited sea of receptivity to see what we can figure out in order to move through some of these problems in the same way humankind has always done that. And we need people and ministers and spiritual-minded thinkers to hunker down and stand in that truth of possibility. So we do not put our head in the sand. We do not put our head in the sand. We just choose to be spiritually dedicated and committed so that we can stay open to attract the knowledge we need to, to grow in our own evolution of our personal growth, of our own, our consciousness, the thoughts of our mind. So there's something mutual. When I looked at the actual writing that this quote came from of the Limitless Sea of Receptivity, it was stunning to notice, as if for the first time I had never noticed this before. All of those words are capitalized when Holmes wrote that line. Limitless, capital L, C, capital S, receptivity, capital R. We are talking now of the divine nature. Those are God qualities. We are giving those qualities divine authority when we see them written with with the capitalization. So there's some kind of turnaround. When I saw that, I thought, oh, we open ourselves to receive, but there's something in this relationship between that which gives and that which receives, which requires receiving also. There has to be giving and taking on both sides. And then I started thinking about, isn't it wonderful just to imagine that there's some kind of intelligence in the universe that receives our prayer request? Right? And that there's this longing to have that privilege, to do that, because you can't have one without the other. So we say that in metaphysical terms, or the languaging we would use, is we would say that there is something in the universe that always receives the impress of our thought. What you think about, that's how what you think about comes to be. What you believe comes to be. That's why Jesus said, it is done unto you as you believe. So are you ready to receive? Are you ready to ask? Are you ready to find that way to open yourself to more spiritual clarity? It doesn't have to be stuff. I think we get, it's nice to see that as I correct this part of my thinking in my life, that it does impact the way my life looks in a positive way. But there's something so much more beautiful that is happening. So let's talk about that for a minute. Something in the universe always receives the impress of your thought. So it's like our thinking is shaping molds of which we are sort of pouring our future into. I mean, it's really God, that it's the giving of all the grace of God. But we are participating. We are co-creators in our own life. And so by what we think and by what we watch on TV, by how we groom what we believe in every way, we are shaping the physical, actual characteristics of the life that we live. Now, Dr. Holmes, who is the founder of this teaching, studied Thomas Troward. He bumped into Troward when he was in his early 30s. And Dr. Holmes was this deep thinker and a spiritual seeker and had a vision of not a new religion, but a way of taking the thinking of the great philosophers and all the spiritual traditions of the world, that there's no one right way to serve God, right? There's only the way you are called to serve or to show up and to have a relationship with life, because not everybody considers it God. And by studying Troward, Dr. Holmes got very invigorated because he realized everything he had intuited about a spiritual methodology had been thought about by other great thinkers. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, that's why I like to study some of the classic stuff so that I can go, oh, I'm spot on, you know? It's like, yeah, I think that way too. You do enough research, you're bound to bump into somebody that thinks just like you do, right? It's great. We all love being validated. So Troward had this great reference. My favorite Troward book is Creative Process and the Individual. By the way, none of them are really my favorites. Troward is hard for me. Of all the people I quote and love to and have great regard for who contributed to our teaching, Troward is probably where I struggle the most. And you'll notice I don't quote from him as much as I quote from Emerson and Emma Curtis Hopkins and other people, and that would be why. But Troward, when I thought of like who would support that idea that we're always impressing our thought, that we're participating, and I knew that it had to be Thomas Troward, so I spent some time this week looking at him, and he talks about the way your thoughts shape and mold the world that we live in. I think that. So he's real metaphysical, real scientific, a lot of subjective, objective, a lot of languaging that I struggle with. You notice I don't use a lot of those terms. But I think of it like this. When I read Troward and I start to understand it, it's like you take a clump of clay and you mold it into something. So what I believe and what I think about is always like that. Or maybe it's even better to think about it this way. It's like you're walking on the beach. I know you guys like that beach down by the military base, the Marine base, right? Am I right? I know you know this. Yes. I think that's so cool. Because they open that to vets, and you can go camping there, and they have little cabins, I think. Is that what you told me? All right, so it's like walking on wet sand. Think about the sand. If it's just the right consistency, you've seen sandcastles or tried to build your own sandcastles, just the right amount of water and sand, and incredible things happen. You can mold it, shape it, make it look like how you want it to look. But if you just walk on the beach where the sand is wet, it will leave an imprint of your foot in the sand. And sometimes, if it's just the right consistency, it will be a remarkable likeness of you that you have left imprinted there. And so think of our thoughts are like that. Something about the way that we are thinking and what we believe is always reshaping our life. I bump into a situation in my life that feels really difficult. Whatever my thoughts and beliefs are about life in that moment are going to influence the way I move through that condition, or in the way that I resist that condition, or in the way I fight that condition, right? And it all starts with that original thought. It's always about that the thinking, the belief, and all the other things we talk about a lot. So as we live our life, as we advance in our own personal growth, everything we think and believe starts to shift and change, especially if you're open-minded. But even if you're not, you may hit a lot of hard bumps in life and start to shut down and think, ooh, life is bad. Then that's the belief, that's the mold that we've set, and then that's all we can see is all the things that are broken. So we want to stay open to that growth. We want to stay open to that limitless sea of receptivity. We want to stay open to that flow of divine life in such a way. We want to stay connected to our source so that we can be cleansing our perception all the time. As you grow and as you experience things, you can actually evolve in such a way that you will see a bigger picture and you will begin to see with the divine vision. Troward had a definition for evolution that said evolution is growth from within. So I like that because that's how I use it, and I use that term a lot. Now, here's something I did not remember about Troward that seems very relevant to me today. Troward's theory saw that our evolution or our growth happens in a sequence, that there's an order of things. Now, I can't help but think of Reverend Cheryl Hawkins for what I'm about to say. But Troward said that in the order of growth, there is a proper sequence in that creative process. There's a proper sequence. And then guess what the sequence is? Life, love, light, power, peace, beauty, and joy. Does that remind you of, if I could rattle it off really fast like she does, you would be hearing Reverend Cheryl right now. Don't we miss that? Oh, you need to get back here, Reverend Cheryl, and give us some amens, because you can shout them out there. We can't quite do it again. I loved it. Go ahead, Rod. Yes, amen. Love that. So here's what Troward said about those words, and this is why there are certain people that know these words. Now, Home used the words all the time. He didn't honor the order. Holmes always, no matter where you read them, and he might be a couple of variations in the way, a different word, or he drops out a word. Life. First, there's life. First, we have to recognize that we are alive, and that we are a part of life, that there's this aliveness about all of life, including ourselves. And when we get that, Troward says, then you move to love. Then something happens. If you're on a spiritual path, you will begin to understand that scripture from the Gospels that says God is love. Love is the second word. Life, be alive, and then love. Then allow your heart to be touched in that way of the power of love, because God is love. And when we awaken to that truth, the next part of the sequence is light. The very next part. And what is light? That's the divine illumination. That's when we can see, in that divine way, we can see the things that we otherwise can't see at all, because you need that divine light to be shining, and it always is shining, but we lose it out of our awareness. So the light is the very power of perception that the whole reason we are on the spiritual path is so that we can tap into that as we need it. And and he defines light as the primary perception of unlimited possibilities yet to be. Light, that divine illumination, that's the awareness, that's the aha moment where you recognize that this is not a coincidence, that this is a divine synchronicity, that I should be thinking about this at this moment, and then that happens, or however you are, or pick up that book and you read that thing that just suddenly makes your whole life make sense. What is light? Troward defines it as the primary perception of unlimited possibilities yet to be. And then after light, once you have that divine illumination, you are empowered. And so the very next word is power. And that's the whole purpose of spiritual mind treatment, of our understanding of the creative process, of everything we teach in this philosophy. It's to come to that place where you no longer feel like a victim to the events in your life or things going on in the world around you, and you're equipped then to move through the harder things that are also a part of life. And then he follows power with peace, then beauty, and then joy, which is really interesting because one time I did my own experiment with A Course in Miracles, because that's my first love, and read the whole book. Remember, I read it in a week. I know I've told you that before. I had read it 4 times, but one time I decided to see if I could read it in a week. I was away I was alone at the beach, and I was there for the whole summer, but I had 1 week left, and said, "What do you want to do? You're going to read that book." And while I read it that week, I had to read 100 pages a day. It's like a little print, like Bible and tissue paper, But I did it. I read 669 pages, and I could not take the kind of notes I would like to take, and so I took notes to find out what I believe the primary theme of the Course in Miracles is, and the bottom line for me was happiness. that everything, it was very sequential, just like this, that leads to this and that leads to that, and the ultimate thing is that we can be happy. So I love that. That's where Troward ended up. That was the ultimate. The last one on his list was joy. So life grows us, and when we are spiritually grounded, we tend to move then in that energetic flow of life, the divine life that supports all of life. And in that way, we have, we gain more insight. Our perception changes, and we start experiencing that limitless sea of receptivity as just greater possibilities in our livingness. So now, if I rethink that quote, throw yourself, he says, without abandon, throw yourself into that limitless sea of receptivity, and then the one who does that the best has the greatest reward. Well, now I can hear it as throw yourself into the nature of God. Throw yourself into oneness with Spirit itself, so that you can get that greatest reward. Immerse yourself in this stuff. And when I think of it like that, immerse yourself, now I see there's an action. I don't just wake up and live happily ever after. I wake up and I know I'm going out in the world. I'm going to do some things to prepare myself so that my vision of the world isn't just the first thing that comes on the news in that day. So, or whatever's going on in the world. So here's a quote I found from Tagore, who is a wonderful Indian poet, a 19th century poet from India, and he is the first person to ever win the Nobel Prize that was not European. Imagine that. So he's the first Indian person, first non-European, to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. And here's a quote from this beautifully deep thinker that fits this conversation. The winds of grace are always blowing, but it is you who must raise your sails. Isn't that lovely? How many of you have been sailing? It's a lot of work. Now, I was always blessed to be the passenger, never asked to contribute, but man, it's a lot of work. People are jumping up and moving things around quickly, and the sails catch the wind, and it's a lot of work, but it's also this great reward if you love being on the ocean and you're comfortable in the elements like that. So the grace is always blowing, but we have to choose, have to take action to immerse ourselves in the fullness of Spirit in order to be receptive to all of the goodness of life. So how do you shape the mold? How do we shape that mold if that's what we want to experience? And I would say it starts like this. You can all see me, right? I stand up here every week. You can all see me. And what you're seeing when you look at me is every thought I have ever thought. What you are seeing as you look at me is every belief I have ever had and what I believe right now, because I've made this mold and it reflects that. What you are seeing when you look at me is every experience I have ever moved through. And that means, everything, every success, every disappointment, every trauma, and every delight I have ever experienced is what you see. And you reflect the same in your life. See, you can't take away any of the pieces, or we wouldn't be who we are. All of it comes together, and there is always more. So, there's more, or you wouldn't be here. And even if you weren't here, there's still more, because that's the nature of life. There's an eternality to it. So I think when I look at how do we shape the mold, I think sometimes we have to realize how important it is to go back to the original source. Every now and then you got to go back to the original source. What happens when you take a mimeographed copy of something and you copy it, and then you make a copy of that, and you copy of the copy of the copy of the copy? It gets fuzzy and hard to see. And when I've been in offices where we have paperwork, I always mark, this one's the master. Don't use the master except for making copies. Don't give away the last crisp copy you've got, especially in those days when we had to type it all up because we didn't have computers. I see a lot of you going, yes, I did that. So the more we use the copy, we're not refreshing the original. I do a template. I do a lot of the work I do is, I don't know if it's redundant is the right word. It's repetitive. Every week I, at some point, write a talk, right? Every week I write a short blog for the newsletter. So I have a lot of tasks like that. So when I go to write the new blog for the newsletter, I open my documents on my PC, and I find the last time I wrote, and I number them numerically so they're easy to find. And I open that document, and then you know what you do? You hit a save as, because now I have a template. I know exactly where I want to go because it tells me the name of the talk, the date, it's the number I have assigned it. It tells me who the musician is. It tells me a whole series. It has the quote that I'm going to use. And then at the bottom, it has personal notes to myself. So when I'm typing the blog and I get excited about something I'm reading at that point to write you the blog, I'll make a note to myself like, don't forget to look on this page and, this inspired you. So it's a template that I use and I reuse and I reuse and I reuse. And every now and then, I'll forget to change the date. Right? Or I'll forget because it's a template and it looks like it's done, or I'll forget to change my notes at the bottom, and now I have left myself a boomerang. It's going to be no help at all. So we have to refresh, right? At the end of the year, I start all new templates on everything I do. I start all new templates because you have to refresh. We have to go back to the original source, the giver of all gifts, and refresh ourselves. Or else we're just a weakened duplicate of what we thought was okay. And you know what? When you're duplicating it, you're not expanding it. It doesn't get better. It's just the same old thing. So there's a time and a place for it. And in terms of us, we want to be really aware of that refresh button that brings us back to the wholeness and the truth and the beauty. I wanted to read to you that same quote that I opened with, Limitless Sea of Receptivity. I wanted to read it to you in the context of the paragraph it comes in. It's one of the, it's something I like. I don't need to tell you that. You know that. But it's a quote I don't say much because I have a fear. A lot of religious scientists, and old religious scientists, will recognize this quote. Many of them used to memorize this quote. And my hunch is that people feel guilty when they hear it because if you haven't trained your mind, if you haven't been open to the limitless receptivity of possibility, you might hear this as a scolding. And so it's not a quote I use, but it's a quote that's very important to me. And it starts this way, page 282. Stay with the one, God, Spirit, the infinite intelligence of all the universe. Stay with that one. Stay with the one, and never deviate from it. Never leave it for a moment. Nothing else can equal this attitude. Oh, don't you love it when you're prayed up and you know the truth about life and you're not getting sidetracked by whatever's going on in your neighborhood or in the news or in your family. Nothing else can equal this attitude. And then for this next sentence, he uses all capital letters. The entire sentence is written in all caps. To desert the truth in your hour of need is to prove that we do not know the truth. To desert the truth in your hour of need is to prove that you don't know the truth. In that moment, you've lost the truth. when things look the worst, that is the supreme moment to demonstrate to ourselves that there are no obstructions to the operation of truth. There can be no obstructions to the operation of truth. Now, whether or not we're able to see it or recognize it or feel it or sense it is about our ability to refresh ourselves with Source, with God, to go back every day and start again at the very beginning. And then he goes on to say, when things look the worst, this is the best time to work. It's the most satisfying time to do this work. The person who can throw himself or herself with a complete abandon into the limitless sea of receptivity is the one who will always receive the greatest reward. The more I played with that term, the limitless sea of receptivity, the more I began to sense a connection between the word receptivity and reciprocity. So I researched the Latin root because it's shared in the biggest part of both of those words. And the Latin root is to go back or to take again. To take again. You gotta immerse yourself. You have to reach out to it. That's why we call them prayer requests. So we are opening ourselves to be in that posture that we can take and receive what it is. And another definition said to go back to the original place anew. That's perfect. To go back to the original source anew, like it's the very first time we've ever met God. Like it's the very first time we've ever opened our souls to have that intimate connection of oneness with Spirit. And then, because I kept digging deeper, I found this one statement that said, however, you cannot receive without a giver. So I thought about that. You cannot receive without a giver. See, there's a gift, but it's not a gift if there's not a recipient. And there's something in that idea of reciprocity that implies that coming together. So it turns out, as I kept digging deeper, there's a universal principle that implies alternating action between two people, or between, I'm going to add this, between Spirit and yourself. An alternating action, giving and receiving, because we have to do both in order to have that experience of wholeness. Every great master said it long before Jesus said it. It's in every spiritual tradition has their own version of the golden rule. So there's actually a definition for so it turns out there's actually something called the reciprocity principle. And this definition comes from, I see some people actually have heard of that before, because if you've studied psychology or sociology in school, you may be familiar with it. And it's something that has been coined by the researchers involved in human development, in understanding people and individuals better. And here's how they define the reciprocity principle. It is a social norm of responding to a positive action of another person, and then one kind deed spurs another positive action. It's about the contagion of goodness, right? We have this whole theory on pay it forward. We understand that. Anybody here ever had their coffee bought by the car in front of them at Starbucks or something? We hear things like this all the time. No, only us? Oh, what is it? Oh, okay. Now now I'm seeing the hands. Yeah, but the rest of you don't drink coffee. It has to be, because you get in that flow, and then that's what happens. And then what does that make you want to do? You want to pay it forward. It's not even a rule. You don't have to. You just desire to, because you know how good it feels to receive. I'm a good tipper for that reason. Well, that and I was a waitress. Did you know that's how I met my husband? Yeah, I waited tables. He never tipped me. It was such a sad thing. I know he married me. It worked. 50 years, we did okay. So it's a universal principle, and I love that because there is this real important way we can look at the human need to give and take in relationship. And then don't exclude God. Remember, there's give and take in that relationship too. So it's a bigger story. It's about the relationship between you and the Creator. It's about stretching our old template, our old ideas, our old beliefs into greater possibilities. It is about creating anew. And I would say that I hope what you take home today is that maybe it could even be about you having a new relationship with God. That would be my greatest desire. And so I will close this morning with a lovely quotation I found from a person named Morihi Yeshiba. Morihi Yeshiba. I'm so proud of myself for being able to pronounce that. Morihi was the founder of the martial art form Aikido. Okay, he's not living anymore. He's Japanese, but he's well published, and he said this: when you bow deeply to the universe, it bows back. When you call out the name of God, it echoes inside of you. There's something important in prayer as our way, one of the ways that we go to God. There's something important in the stillness, having quiet time alone with Spirit, where you can be still and know. So let us have a plan this week that when we re-examine the way we pray and our idea of what our relationship with God could be like, let us just humbly open ourselves to receive greater good. And that's what I wanted to say today. I think we got a little Hugh in the house here today. So take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. And just let all of the intellectual words that have been spoken this day, we just let them fall all about the room, wherever you are. We let them land. And yet there was one something that was said today that was just for you. So pick that up and hold it closely in your hand. And so we open ourselves, our minds and our hearts to that receptive posture, to that limitless sea of receptivity, to recognize that right where we are is the fullness of God. Right here in the exact place where each of us sits right now. We feel that love within us. Something sparkles into life. It is that flame, that divine light of illumination. It is that which we have nurtured this day. It came as a tiny spark, and now we're thinking. We're exploring greater possibilities, and we are unifying our minds with the mind of God. For there is only one mind, and it indeed is God's mind, and we are one with it. So we feel that life. We feel the movement of love within us, and that then fires this divine illumination, the light of truth that shifts our perception in such a way that we become increasingly aware that we are one with this glorious flow of life. And that then is the empowerment that allows us to know that we are fully gifted with everything we need on this journey of life. And that any appearance of anything that we don't have, that we are resourceful human beings. And as we realign ourselves to Spirit itself, we will see that that which we need has always been right in front of us. That the wisdom we need to move through any predicaments or delights of life is already at the core of our being. And that the spiritual wisdom that we desire to experience in our lives and to express in our beingness, that wisdom is ignited by that light of truth, and that we therefore are a healing presence wherever we go. So we take that gem that we hold in our own hand, the words of truth spoken today that spoke to us personally, and we individualize this creative process so that we can be this beaming expression of love and of joy, of truth and of beauty, and that we can be a part of the peace that desires expression on this planet right now. So I know that there has been a healing happening in this very room or at the ears of those who are listening. I know that there has been truth revealed. I know that we are greater expressions of our wholeness and our perfection and our love. And so we are confident in this way. We have been called to be a part of a spiritual community, to be a part of our families, to be part of our neighborhoods, and to be citizens on this planet that care. So I say thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite Spirit, for this clarity, this new wisdom, this way we have refreshed our minds yet again and returned to source, the original source. This is the whole purpose. This is what gives life meaning. This is us as a spiritual community and as individuals. And it is in a great, great spirit of gratitude that I simply release these words into that divine law that always responds affirmatively. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. Amen.
Grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
Thank you. And thank you, Reverend Karen. That was absolutely fabulous. You know, for those of you who have done any sailing, you know what a spinnaker is? It's the really big one that has usually got fancy designs on it. That's all I could see in my mind when you read the quote about you have to raise your sails. You know, it's such a joy for me to have the privilege to consistently be a part of this community. Thank you. So it is time for giving and receiving, which is just exactly what we've been talking about. We have contribution boxes over on the way to Papke Hall, one in the back of the room and one out at home space. Please drop your contributions in as you go, or if you are like me, get it so that it's automatically delivered. It's so easy that way too. So if you will now repeat with me the joyful giving affirmation. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And thank you all for being here.
Please rise for our last song. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Sing that with me. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. I ain't thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry about the future. I'm living now. I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. Raise your cup if you're hopeful for tomorrow. Put your hands up if you're ready to have some fun. Now sing it. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. One more time. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive.
Woo! Hey, let's do the old traditional close, the affirmation. Let's see if the minister can remember it. Repeat after me. Something wonderful is happening in me right now. It is this thing called life. Life is in my mind. Life is in my body. And life is in all my experiences. I think it. I feel it. I know it. And I accept it. Just the way that it is. And just the way that it is not. Thank you, life. Amen. Woo, we did it. Yay. Thanks for being here. Love, pray often, love much.